They built the Marshall House to be a sanctuary for the sick and wounded. But some say the suffering never left. Behind these historic walls, guests have reported footsteps in empty halls, doors moving on their own, shadowy figures near the stairwell, and the feeling that someone is standing beside their bed at night. This isn't just one of Savannah's oldest hotels. For many, it's one of its most haunted. And what happened here may still be checking in. In the heart of Savannah, Georgia, surrounded by cobblestone streets, moss-covered oaks, and buildings that have watched centuries pass, there is a hotel with a reputation that refuses to die. It's called the Marshall House. Today, it's one of Savannah's most famous historic hotels. Guests come for the charm, the balconies, the antique details, and the feeling of stepping into another century. But many leave with a story they can't explain. Because inside the Marshall House, people have reported footsteps in empty hallways, faucets turning on by themselves, children laughing when no children are nearby, and shadowy figures standing at the edges of rooms. And when you look into the building's history, the hauntings start to make a terrifying kind of sense. The Marshall House first opened in 1851, built by Mary Marshall, a wealthy businesswoman at a time when Savannah was already an old city with a complicated past. This was not some quiet roadside inn. The Marshall House stood in the middle of one of the South's most important port cities. Savannah was busy, wealthy, crowded, and vulnerable. Ships came in from all over. Travelers moved through constantly, and with them came disease, war, and death. Not long after the hotel opened, Savannah was struck by waves of illness. Yellow fever haunted the city throughout the 1800s, killing thousands across multiple outbreaks. The disease moved fast. Victims could be healthy one day and dead within days. Fever, bleeding, organ failure, panic. Entire neighborhoods lived in fear whenever the sickness returned. During some of these outbreaks, the Marshall House was reportedly used as a hospital. But the darkest chapter came during the Civil War. When the war broke out in 1861, Savannah became a key Confederate city. Soldiers passed through, wounded men arrived, and by the time Union General William Tecumseh Sherman completed his famous March to the Sea in 1864, Savannah was no longer untouched by war. The Marshall House was again used as a hospital, this time for soldiers. Imagine what that meant. No modern medicine, no antibiotics, no sterile operating rooms, no real pain management as we understand it today. Just rooms full of injured men, the smell of blood, fever, infection, and fear. Amputations were common during the Civil War. A wound to the arm or leg could easily become infected, and infection often meant death. Surgeons worked quickly, sometimes performing operation after operation in brutal conditions. That is the history sitting beneath the polished floors and elegant rooms of the Marshall House. And according to local legend, some of that history may have been discovered in a very physical way. During later renovations, workers reportedly found old medical items beneath the floorboards, and, according to some accounts, human remains or bones connected to the building's time as a hospital. Whether every detail of that story can be perfectly verified or not, the reputation stuck, because guests were already reporting strange things. One of the most common stories at the Marshall House involves the sound of children. Guests have claimed to hear children running down the hallways late at night. Small footsteps, quick movement, laughter. Sometimes the sound stops right outside a room, as if whoever is there is waiting on the other side of the door. But when guests open the door, the hallway is empty. No children, no movement, nothing. Others have reported hearing marbles or balls rolling across the floor above them, even when there is no one in the room overhead. This type of haunting is especially unsettling because it feels playful at first. A child laughing in a hotel hallway doesn't immediately sound terrifying. until it happens at 3 in the morning, until you realize there are no children checked into the nearby rooms, until the laughter comes from inside your room. Another common report involves faucets and bathroom fixtures. Guests have said they woke in the middle of the night to the sound of running water. When they got up to check, the faucet was on, not dripping, not leaking, fully running. Some shut it off, go back to bed, and hear it turn on again. Others report lights flickering, doorknobs rattling, and doors opening or closing without explanation. In a modern hotel, that might be blamed on wiring, plumbing, or air pressure. But the Marshall House is not a modern hotel. It is a building layered with death, sickness, war, and memory. Then there are the apparitions. Some guests have reported seeing shadowy figures moving through the halls. Others claim to have seen a man in old-fashioned clothing, sometimes described as a soldier, standing near doorways or walking through the building as if he's still on duty. One of the most chilling ideas connected to the Marshall House is that some of its spirits may not understand that the war is over. If the building truly served as a hospital for wounded soldiers, then the final memories of many men inside those walls may have been agony, confusion, and fear. A soldier could have gone to sleep in pain and never woken up. A young man could have entered the building believing he would recover, only to die in a room now used by vacationers. And if hauntings are tied to trauma, the Marshall House has more than enough trauma to explain its legends. But not all of the hauntings feel violent. Some feel watchful. Guests describe the sensation of being stared at while lying in bed. They look toward the corner of the room and see nothing, but the feeling remains. Others wake suddenly in the night for no reason, only to notice a shape near the foot of the bed. A dark form, a person-sized shadow, something that disappears when fully looked at. There are also stories of unseen hands, a light touch on the arm, a tug on the blanket, the sensation of someone sitting on the edge of the bed. Small things, quiet things, the kind of things that make you question whether you were dreaming, until someone else in the same room admits they felt it too. And that's what makes the Marshall House so effective as a ghost story. It doesn't rely on one huge legend. It doesn't have just one famous ghost. Instead, the building feels crowded. Children in the halls, soldiers in the rooms, unknown figures near the beds, the living and the dead sharing the same space night after night. Savannah itself adds to the mystery. This is a city often called one of the most haunted in America, and for good reason. It was built over old burial grounds, shaped by fires, epidemics, slavery, war, and sudden death. In Savannah, beauty and tragedy are often standing on the same street. The Marshall House fits perfectly into that atmosphere. By day, it looks elegant, historic, southern, beautiful. By night, it becomes something else. The long hallways feel a little too quiet. The antique details seem less decorative and more like reminders. Every creak in the floor feels like a footstep. Every shift in the room feels like someone just moved nearby. And the scariest part is that many people who stay there aren't looking for ghosts at all. They check in for a romantic weekend, a historic vacation, or a Savannah getaway. Then the water turns on by itself. Then footsteps stop outside their door. Then they hear a child laugh in the darkness. The Marshall House has embraced its haunted reputation, but the stories have persisted for so long because guests continue to experience things they can't easily explain. Maybe it's just the age of the building. Maybe it's old pipes, old wood, and imagination stirred by Savannah's haunted reputation. Or maybe the building remembers. Maybe some places absorb what happens inside them. The fear, the pain, the voices, the final breaths. And maybe, in the Marshall House, the past was never fully removed. It was just covered with fresh paint, polished floors and clean sheets. So if you ever stay there, pay attention after midnight. Listen for footsteps in the hallway. Check the bathroom faucet before you go to sleep. And if you hear children laughing outside your door, don't be too quick to open it. Because at the Marshall House, the guests who checked in over a century ago may have never truly checked out. And in Savannah, some rooms are never empty.